What's up, guys? Brand new edition of the DC Defender Show on United Football Media. Me and Alex, we're back together. No guests, no anything. This is a somber episode. It's the funeral. Alex, how are you?
Good, man. Hit the music.
We knew going into the last episode that this was going to be an uphill climb going into the final 3 weeks. We needed some help. Obviously, we needed the Brahmas to lose, but we need to win. And obviously, we did not do that. We lost 26-21 in St. Louis against our hated rivals. Even Beck commented on that after game. I don't know if you saw that post game, saying how this is the XFL's rivalry. Your first thoughts on the game? First of all, let's talk about effort. We'll talk about effort. What did you think as soon as the game was over on the effort of the defenders?
They played their butts off. I thought they competed. You know, they had a chance in the last drive to win the game. I was proud of the effort, disappointed in the result. We'll talk about some of the good things that they did, but, I do think they sold out and they really left it on the field. We are what we are. Congratulations to St. Louis. They deserve to win. The fact that they were able to get a backup quarterback ready and that effective. They had some major
former Arizona State Sun Devil.
Yeah.
6 years.
Oh, yeah.
He hasn't had a start in 6 years. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he had a good one on Sunday, and then they had a couple of receivers out. You got to give them credit. They deserve it. Still don't like them. I still think there'll be a sacrificial lamb for whoever should they be lucky enough to meet the USFL champion. I think they're going to be the sacrificial lamb for whoever they run into, whether it be Memphis or Michigan. So enjoy it while you can, St. Louis, but congratulations on Sunday. You were the better team.
Fair enough. What was the one thing that you were very disappointed in with the defenders' performance? The one thing, I know Coach Alex will come out and we'll talk about all the X's and O's where we missed play calls and all that kind of stuff. But I want to know the number one thing. If we only can correct one thing from Sunday, what would you like to see corrected? I'm not saying obviously the playoffs are over with. I'm saying just in general, this team needs to correct this, and this was evident on Sunday.
The play calling, sticking to the run. I mean, we didn't commit to the run. We had 17 run plays, and if you look at the 17 run plays, Higgins and Cam Harris had 11. Of the carries, 5 were Tiamu and 1 was Kute on a receiver reverse, which was a great call. But we don't really stick to the run game. It's like get caught up in the throw it around. It's hard to explain. We don't establish anything. And Higgins was averaging almost 5 yards a carry. And even the announcer said, "Hey, we talked to the defender coaches, and they were like going back to their roots, and we're going to run the football." But then when you look at the stats, we didn't. It's like we fall into that same play calling rut every week of getting away from the run. That to me was probably the most disappointing Sunday.
Yeah. Higgins also with his carries, it seemed like they were getting going just like you're talking about. And then that interception, which was 100% on Tiamu. I know we got a bunch of people in United Football Media are like, where's the apologist for this? I'm not apologizing for Tiamu's throw on that one. That's 100% on Tiamu. He's not perfect. I get it. Like he missed it. And that kind of killed momentum because what that drive was doing was they were handing off to Higgins. They were the end around the Kuti, like you said. They were Tiamu looked like he was in a groove before. There was flow, and it felt like there was an identity to this team for the first time in a very long time, and that killed all momentum. That interception, and it seemed like after that they didn't know how to call a drive like that again. It seemed like Higgins gets stuffed at the line, I think, on the next drive, and I don't remember seeing Higgins touching the ball after. You said he only had so many carries, and they're all in the first quarter, first quarter and a half,
right? And effective runs too.
Yeah. I don't understand where the flow disruption comes from because it seemed like they were getting, they get that first drive and then the second drive, and it seemed like, hey, guess what? They got something here, and without them having Pearson and Aitman and put them away and kill them. Yes, the interception kills momentum and they come down, and I think they scored a touchdown or a field goal to take the lead, right? So that was a big momentum swing, but we just gave up. Like we're like, oh, we need to score, and now we got to throw the ball like it's the fourth quarter of the minute left. And instead of just getting back to our identity that was working, I just feel like the flow. So I definitely agree with you. But the one thing I would correct is the rush defense, man. In that second half, that rush defense was a joke. Like, it was a joke. It was 100% joke. I get that the defense is supposed to be aggressive in its pass rush, and it kind of leaves you vulnerable in the middle. I get that to a certain extent. But how many missed tackles? Like, outside of Hines, it seemed like all the other linebackers were just missing tackles. They were just bouncing off guys. And I'm thinking to myself, you're looking at 30-year-old Wayne Gallman. No disrespect to Gallman. He was one of my favorite players at Clemson ever. But he was just like able to outmaneuver these guys. And it should not be done when your butt's on the line. Like, your playoff lives are on the line. And it just seemed like the defense was very soft, especially in the middle. I'm not saying Malik Fisher and Roberson. I'm not even saying the corners, because first of all, DeAndre Baker, hearing him talk for the first time, I think all year, I was like, that's a dog, man. That is because he will rip everyone's head off. When he said that to the announcer, I was like, that's Greg's type of guy right there.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Conley played all right. Like, every time Hakeem Butler even got close to the ball, they were smashing him. And like, they had a plan for that, but like, it did not match on the run defense. It did not match.
No.
TJ Barnes, yes, he had a decent game. He took up a lot of space, but at the end of the day, he wasn't making tackles. I just feel like the rush defense right now is 8th in the league. 8th in the league. That means every other team can run the ball against this team. And I don't know, man. It's disappointing, because for most of the year, it was the secondary that was giving up a bunch of yards, big plays, and that kind of stuff. And it seems like they've sorted that out. And at the same time, the rush defense, you're going to say something contradictory there, but
no, I'm going to agree with you. I mean, I think if you look at the last 3 weeks, we've touched on it. No, actually, something popped into my head I want to call out. I'll call it out in a second. But, a couple of weeks ago, I think San Antonio went over 200 in rushing on the ground. Last week, I think Michigan had 187. This week, we held 147, 140, 141. So that's 3 weeks in a row that we've kind of been gutted. But you remember week 3 when we beat Arlington, some co-host got on the show and said what really had concerned him is that we were putting 7 and 8 guys in the box and they were still running for 5-6 yards. You remember that? Yeah. I said, what's sad is, Greg called a good game. He's putting 8 guys up there and they're still getting 5 yards. Yeah. We are what we are. No offense to these guys. They played their butts off. Love them all. But we have to address these issues on defense in the offseason. They had a lot of talent out there in that USFL pool, and we chose to stick with what we were sticking with from last year, and that's fine. But we got pushed around in the middle. Our linebackers got pushed around. The interior guys got pushed around for the large majority of the year. You look at Roberson, you look at Fisher, they were standouts the rest of the year. Other than those two, every job in that interior to me is open going into next year. I mean, there's some serious issues on that front.
Oh, without a doubt. You talk about the USFL, XFL kind of divide. The USFL is better on defense. It's evident because even their bad teams are pretty good on defense right now. I know Memphis is giving up a lot right now. It seems like that team quit a little bit, but Houston can play solid defense. Michigan obviously is very good defensively. Birmingham is probably the best defense right now. And on the XFL side, Arlington, not known for defense. DC, not known for defense. San Antonio, I guess I can give them a little bit of credit. And St. Louis, they're vulnerable. Like me and you talk about that. Well, you say it all the time. They're very middle of the road. So I would say the USFL was better on the defensive side, and the XFL was better on the offensive side, because on the other side of the coin, St. Louis is a very good offense, right? Yeah. Arlington, even though they're 1-6, is pretty good offense. Mm-hmm. While the DC is probably the worst offense in the XFL. Yeah. And while on the USFL side, you have Memphis, Houston. Houston is a dumpster fire. Like on offense, it is a mess. I know Mark Thompson's there, but like Michigan's whole problem is no one trusts their offense because they're going through so many quarterbacks. But me and you called it a couple weeks ago about Bryce Perkins. I'm telling you right now, that guy's going to be a problem for Birmingham in the USFL championship. If Chavis comes out with a good game plan, they can control him. But with that rushing attack with Perkins, but anyways, we got time for that. we're here for the DC Defenders funeral. Another thing that I would like to call out is 11 offensive tackles have been on the roster since training camp.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? 11 offensive tackles. I can't even name. Like, I had to write them down because I can't believe all these guys are all here. Yasir Durant, Ross Johnson, Williams, Yarborough, who's on the roster right now, Chidi Okiki, Adonis Boone, Tommy Champion, who I don't think is on the roster anymore. He's kind of floated in and out.
Yeah.
Plum, Hayes, Gene Delance, the spitter, and Kyle Murphy. And also replacing guys that have retired like Kyle Murphy and guys that an offensive line was pretty solid. It seems like they swung and they missed they had 4 strikeouts. If it's a 9-inning game, I don't know. Growing up, there's one of my favorite players was Mark McGuire. And there were games that he had 4 Ks, man. You know what I mean? Like, he struck out, he's swinging for the fences, and it was a complete miss. He wasn't even following the ball off. I think this was a big swing and a miss from Von Hutchins and Reggie Barlow. I'm not saying the running game obviously hasn't been great. The receivers haven't been all home runs. I haven't seen many bright lights from the offensive line. I really haven't, especially the tackle spots. That's what I'm talking about. There's been moments where you could see Kelvin Harmon was pretty good. You could see Scott was pretty good. Cooties had some moments. This offensive line, I don't remember a game where I'm like, they were really good. I just don't. And I think that was his biggest swing and a miss out of anything, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had the one game against San Antonio where I thought, oh my gosh, they showed some life. They had that new offensive line coach come in, and they show spurts of being good, but just not consistently good. And I don't think we went over 100 yards rushing for a game the entire year. I don't think we've done that. If you go back and look, that's problematic. So I think, again, offensive line's a position in the offseason they're going to have to address. If you can't come back with this, you just can't.
I think the interior of the offensive line is decent enough. You can bring them back. Fornadell, Maietti. They are 5th in the league in rush offense, which when I was going through the stats, I was like, really? Like, I thought for sure, like I wrote down the categories and I was like, they're definitely 8th here and they're here, right? Both rushing defense, rushing offense. That's what I thought. And they're really 8th in rush offense. I mean, in third down percentage and rush defense. Talk about third down percentage. What is the problem with third down? Is it just based off that you can't run the ball? Or is it, you can go ahead and say what your Tiamo take here if you want.
No, I mean, a lot of it, it feels like, well, first of all, Sunday, it felt like we did convert some big third downs and our receivers made some really good catches. And I thought Jordan did a really good job of throwing the underneath stuff. I thought he was very sharp, and our guys made some super big catches on third down, but it did, to your point, it felt like we were in a lot of 3rd and longs this year, which are hard to convert anyway. I really can't put my finger on it other than it just feels like all year offensively, it felt like even if you knew nothing about football, but you could watch and see this team struggles offensively in just about all phases. And you watch some of these other teams, like I watched a little bit of San Antonio, even with Dormandy, and you watch some of these other teams, and it's like, wow, their offenses, their flows. And, I think, Jordan caught a lot of heat by me this year, and probably some of it was deserved, probably some of it wasn't. But I think, and we talked about it before the show started, you lost 2 receivers to the NFL. We didn't replace them. And it's hard to replace 2 guys like that. We lost Abram Smith. He was the best running back in the league. We didn't replace him, and it's hard to replace a guy like that. So it did all fall to Jordan. Even the interception to Roland, which was a ball that was high, but he's also throwing to a 5'7" receiver in the interior of the defense. He's not a big target, so that's a tough throw, a little margin for error. So, JT did a lot of good things. He's probably at the twilight of his spring career. I would think. Another direction, maybe for the rest of the year, another direction for next year, I'm sure. But we felt like we struggled on first down, second down, third down. Yeah. It was bad.
I'm going to attribute the third down percentage to play calling. I think never having a flow or an identity gets you in those third down and longs. There's no play that you can be like, you know what? This was a play that was outside of Briley throwing it to Briley, right?
Yeah.
There was no player that I felt 100% comfortable. If you told me what the play was going to happen, that they were going to be able to get a bunch of yards or 7 yards, let's say. There was not like, hey, they're going to drop it off to Rowland or they're going to drop it off to Kuti. There was nothing that you're like, okay, they're gonna be all right, right?
We ran that
nothing.
tight end screen a couple of times where we can. I don't know if you remember the Houston game. It was a big gain for us. We ran that tight end screen a couple of times. It was good. But to your point, you look at that team and it's like, what's your go-to play? What do you go to on 4th and 1, or what do you go to when you need to play? You're right. There's nothing. There's nothing offensively you go to. Can't hang your hat on.
I think when. Do you remember when St. Louis lined up for the tush push and we jumped off sides? Hines fell over. Like there was, I actually thought during the game, I was like, this is the Philadelphia Eagles kind of play. You know, like they're going to get it regardless. And I thought to myself, I'm like, what would be ours? And I really don't know what it is. Is it Briley more on the backside of Tiamo going one way and throwing it across the field? Like that was the only play that seemed to spark this team. But
hey, what'd you think of the fake punt?
I was shocked. I was shocked that they actually felt desperate for the first time all year. It seemed like they were nervous. In my opinion.
Do we know if that was called or was that an automatic? Because I think what happened was when Brooks came in, he saw the gunner uncovered. Because go back and look at the tape.
I did too. I was watching. I was like, man, go for fake. I actually fell for it too.
I think the guy baited him into the throw, and I think Brooks came up and saw he was uncovered, and that's an automatic to throw it to him, and the guy made the tackle because I wondered, and I don't know if it was – I didn't see the press conference post-game, but I wonder if it was called or the player called it.
Yeah.
Seeing the uncovered gunner.
Yeah, Wayne Gallman with the tackle, which is – he baited Paxton Brooks into throwing that ball, so.
Yeah.
So
it was a tough day.
We head on to Memphis with 2 games to go. You got Memphis, and then you have Arlington, 2 teams that are kind of going for the first pick in the draft. So they both kind of don't want to win. We're kind of stuck in purgatory. Honestly, we're not battling for a top 3 pick. We are stuck at 4. I believe I think we're stuck at 4 officially. Outside if a team goes 2-0 and we go 0-2 and then tiebreakers and all that. But I think we're the 4th pick regardless.
Yeah.
What would you do as a head coach going into these last 2 weeks? Because it's not like you are building for the future, but in the same sense, you have responsibility to guys that you coached all year, the guys that have earned your starting spot, to give them good opportunity for film to get a call back to the NFL. It's not like, hey, let's go see what Jack Plum has because he hasn't really got a lot of snaps so we can make an assessment for next year. Would you lean loyal or would you lean development for your own job? Really?
I'd lean giving some guys opportunities that maybe haven't gotten a chance to put a lot on tape. So like, I agree with you. Jordan's had 8 starts. He's had a lot of tape. Maybe you give Jalen McClendon a start, against Memphis and give him a chance, and not so much getting ready for next year, but giving him a chance to get some tape on there. Maybe, you come out and you say, I don't give a crap if we don't run for a single yard. Darius is going to touch the ball 20 times. We're going to run the ball 20 times and give him a chance to make some tape. You got nothing to lose now. You can be totally. But I think what I would probably do is I would probably try to work in guys who maybe haven't gotten tape, giving them some opportunity to get on film. I don't see a lot of NFL. I'm not a scout, but I don't see a lot of NFL talent on this team. I don't.
On the offensive side, especially.
Yeah.
See, I like the secondary. I like the secondary. So
you could argue I was going to say the corners. Malik
Fisher
deserves a shot. Roberson deserves a shot.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, there are a few, but offensively, who do you think deserves a shot offensively in the NFL camp? Based on what you said?
Not an NFL camp. I feel like, all right, Tiamo, you got your 8 starts. I would love to see Mike DiLello. I would love to see a guy that, you know what I mean, like his 2 weeks, because look what they did with Bryce Perkins, right? Bryce Perkins there 2 weeks, and now he's somewhat carrying this team to their playoff race. Like, why not just give him 2 years? Because here's the thing, he's probably not going to get an NFL shot based off of 2 games. So at worst, you're getting him taped to maybe get an NFL shot, but you're also getting him to be in that Fred Kai system. If you're all intending to come back, he needs to learn that system. What's the best way to learn, especially in a league like this where you don't have an off season? Like the only way you can learn is being in the game situation, because camp's only going to be 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be able to assess him perfectly. So why not give the young guy a game and give McClendon a game? Like Tiamu, you're the third string, emergency quarterback. Be the leader. You were already in NFL camp last year. Let's give Higgins a carry, right? Right now we only have 2 backs, so it's Higgins and Cameron Harris is the only ones on the team. You got the receiver from Cal. His name's escaped me. The new one. Throw him out there.
Yeah.
Like what's the worst that can happen? Offensive line. The problem is the roster is so thin that a lot of guys have already had their opportunities as to be a part of this 3 and 5 season right now, right? So they've already had their opportunity, a lot of them already. There's not a lot that have not had opportunity outside of the quarterback, the new guys, really. Do you make roster moves? Do you cut guys like they did with DJ Swearinger? No, they cut DJ Swearinger 3 weeks ago because they wanted to go younger. They wanted to go younger, Monty Nicholson and stuff like that. So
he's a hitter. He's a hitter. Nicholson, we laid some damn. I will tell you one thing about the game I did like. It made me happy to see those shots. And boy, I tell you, those defensive backs. My boy Butler was in that ice tub today, man. They beat him good. They did.
First of all, I want to say I love Hakeem Butler. It just seemed like he just got up and he was tough, and he looks like an NFL body. And I know he's a battle hawk and you're not supposed to like him, yada yada yada. But like out of all the battle hawks, like I got to tip my hat to him because they aimed to take his head off. Like
they did.
Like in my head, because of who the defense coordinator is, I'm thinking, is there a bounty gate out? Like I'm because they were hitting him regardless. Like if he was looking at the ball, they were coming and hitting him.
Yeah,
and I'm not. There's no obviously there was no bounty gate. But what I'm saying is that just every time Hakeem even got thrown the ball in his direction, on the same side of the field, they were hitting him. Yeah, and I like the secondary. I think, like you said, Malik Fisher and Roberson are good talents that should probably get an NFL look, at least Malik Fisher, and Roberson probably too. But like defensive tackles, you got to look elsewhere. They should have kept Boogie. They should have kept Boogie. I'm gonna steal your line. We talked about it before the show, but like they should have kept Boogie. Like how do you not keep a veteran like that's active? And he might not be the biggest like TJ Barnes, but Boogie is better than TJ Barnes. Like I've now watched TJ Barnes first season and Boogie first season, and I love D tackles. All right, and that's where I don't really watch the edge a lot. I'm going to be honest with you. I watch right up the middle. If you can get pressure up the middle, I'm a firm believer. Get pressure right up the middle. I don't care about the edge stuff. I just believe like take the center and put him on the quarterback. That's the way. Olive and Boogie and all that. That's just always been my kind of philosophy. Aaron Donald kind of turned me into that, right? Where like I just was like, this guy's amazing. He changes all by himself. Like, why would you not bring in a guy like Boogie Roberts? Or because you obviously were getting bullied. You're 8th in third down. I mean, you're 8th in rushing defense. You're 5th in third down percentage. Like you're not getting off the field. 4th in passing defense. Like 6th in total defense. Like, why are you not making changes? Like you have a defense coordinator, and I cannot believe I'm saying this because at the beginning of the season I would not say this. I actually like Greg Williams. I actually think he calls a decent game. I actually think he because on the offense, like I'm checking if they have a pulse the entire time, right? I'm like, do they have a pulse? On the defense, I don't have to worry about a pulse check. Like exactly where it is. When he talked about the shoes and then being different colors and all that coming out of the locker room, I was like, I like this guy. Is he 100% what Webb likes? No, he's not. But guess what? He's the only one on the whole entire staff that looked like cared, in my opinion. That like he fully cared and was upset when things weren't going the right way. The other ones just were like, well, that's just how it is. I'm just gonna sit back like this. Like that's what that's the way it felt on the offensive side. While the defense side had a little dog in them, and that's the only fight. That's the only reason why they're 3-5. If it was just the offense, they might be 1-7 right now. They might be the Houston Roughnecks. They might be CJ. I'm not saying it's CJ Johnson type of coaching job going on. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying there's got to be a little bit of a pulse here. It did not seem like the offensive side got upset at all. And the quarterback is Mr. Cool. JT is Mr. Cool, and I respect that. But at the same time, someone has to take a leadership of, hey, we got to go. And it never seemed like, from coaching staff to the players, it never seemed like there was a guy that was like rah rah. Like last year they had the receivers. Abram was quiet, but they had the receiver. Like there was a little bit of pep in the step. There was no pep this year.
Right.
Through 8 games.
No, I agree. Yeah, it was hard to watch offensively. And, you'd come out, a couple of these opening drives in the games and you like run the ball. It's like 8 yards, 6 yards, 7 yards. And you're like, okay, we figured it out. We're going to run the football. We're going to pound. We're going to play action off of that. We'll run some RPOs. And then it would just feel like the rest of the game, you never saw it again.
Yeah.
And, it just felt like we gave up. I mean, that first game, I think I was complaining against San Antonio. We had 12 carries. And it's like we just fell in love with these RPOs. And, a lot of the passing game, the horizontal passing game, they ran a play the other day for like a 2-yard loss. I don't know if you remember or not, but they ran. It was almost like a little tight end screen. Like the tight end was behind the line of scrimmage. They had guys blocking downfield, and they just threw it out to him in the flat. And the linebacker runs over and makes a tackle for like a 3 or 4 yard loss. And it's like, why run that?
Yeah.
Why run that? You're just throwing the ball out in the flat. It's almost like you're trying to get the ball to the tight end on the perimeter. You got guys who really can't block, stock blocking. I mean, our receivers don't do a great job of blocking downfield at all. And it's just like, that's like a wasted play. And it's like, would you be better off just pounding Darius in the middle, for 6 or 8 yards? Why are you? I don't know. We can second guess. Coach Keiss knows more football than I'll ever know. And he's a good man. And these guys are with him all the time. And again, I think the game plan to have JT throw the underneath stuff was the right game plan for him. It gave him a chance to, he threw for almost 60% completion percentage, which is really high considering where he is normally. But offensively, we just were bad, and we were consistently bad all year. And you just felt like it was a grab bag the entire season. And I think a lot of that, if you really peel the onion back, we just lost too many dudes. We lost too many skill position guys to replace. And Vaughn and Reggie, Coach Barlow didn't replace them. But I think when you look at what you have now, I think you probably are looking at massive roster turnover in the offseason, because this team now isn't a playoff team. They just
I just remember the thumbnail that we had on one of our first episodes says DC has the best roster in the UFL, and that couldn't be anything further from the truth. Like, we went into the season thinking, hey man, we got Trent Harris and 9.5 sacks last year. We've got pass rush. Bellamy's going to be there. Like, we weren't even talking about Malik Fisher and Derek Roberson, right? We weren't talking at all. We were like TJ Barnes and Big Joe in the middle. Offensive line, we got to replace a few guys, but we got the NFL receivers with Kelvin Harmon and Kuti and Cameron Harris should be decent, and like we got Tiamu, Offensive Player of the Year, and all of it has been a lie. We have lied to you because this did not turn out the way that anywhere remotely close. Like on Polar Opposites, I host that with Ace. I got 3 out of the 4 playoff teams right. Guess which one I got wrong?
Us.
Yeah. I wasn't like Ace. Ace only got 2 out of 4. I got 3 out of 4. I took Michigan, but
I'm smart.
Yeah. Well, I said only 5 and 5. I just said they're going to survive. I was wrong partly, but I'm not going to admit that on that show.
If you look at the playoff teams, and we said we're not a playoff team, and you look at our record, we talked about it before the show started. We're 1-5 against playoff teams this year. So of the 4 teams that are going to make the playoffs, we are 1-5. That tells you right there, that's where you are as relates to the better teams in the league. We're just not. We just weren't. This is not a football team that's one of the top 4. Got a lot of work to do for sure, but you still have 2 games to play, and you've got to get to 500 would still be a good year. That's something not a good year. 500 gives you something to play for. You got Memphis, you got Arlington to end it at Rowdy. So you're still playing for something. For these guys that, these guys too, they're playing for tape. They're playing for looks for themselves, right? They've got a 2-game audition to finish it up. But, we still can go 5-5. And it starts with, Memphis next week. And Memphis is a very beatable team. So
we'll see. We'll see. All right. Prediction time.
doesn't that all sound very hollow? Did you buy that bullshit?
I really. See, here's the thing.
You know how mad I am right now.
Here's the thing with this team. 5-5 doesn't mean crap.
Right.
All right. They were 9-1 last year.
Yep.
They were in the championship game. They come here and they laid a dud. It started in San Antonio, and it just has not. They've not been able to shake it because. Yes, they beat San Antonio the second time. I get that. But San Antonio is the one questionable playoff team. The other 3 teams, they've smashed. Like, I know Birmingham stunk that game, and we barely lost. Like, Birmingham was not good.
Yeah.
And we barely lost. Like, we can't beat.
Twice going in against us, too. We were damn lucky to be where we were. And
we fell for it because we came on this show, and we were like, hey, it's looking up. We might be 1-3, but we're 2-2, but it's looking up, right? And it couldn't be anywhere further from the truth. Like this team was not a playoff team. And it seemed like it got old fast. It seemed like a lot of key parts got old fast, and I think it has to do with the spring league because the spring league. The primes are a little bit shorter in the spring league because these guys don't get to spend millions of dollars on their bodies. They have a part-time job with, like, heck, where was Tazzino in the last Maulers show? He was working a job in the mall.
In the bathroom when he called in on our show.
He was in the bathroom, but he was working a job during Christmas time because he can't spend 12 hours at the gym or 8 hours at the gym and working on his body and working on his skills. Like, these guys have a shorter shelf life because they aren't spending all these millions of dollars like Tom Brady. You know what I mean?
Well, for those that didn't get to watch the Maulers farewell show, we had about 8 or 9 Maulers on with Webb and I, and Tez was one of them. So that's, it would be neat to see Tez win a championship in Birmingham. I love watching him play. I love that guy. Period. I love watching him play. So Tez is on our show, and we asked him something. He said, "Hold on a minute." And he was working his off-season jobs as a security guard, and he was webcasting from a stall in the bathroom, and he needed a minute to get out of the bathroom. But what a character!
He said, "I'm indisposed."
Glad he didn't have his camera on.
But. All right, prediction time. I guess that will be the question of the week. It's a funeral episode. We talked about it all. Now we're in the afterlife. What is this afterlife going to be remembered as? How do we face Memphis in Memphis in what's that called? Liberty Bank. Yeah, it's Simmons Bank or something. Liberty, and they have like three fans there, and it's probably the worst looking venue out there. Move Memphis if you need to move Memphis. Start over and move Memphis. But that's just me talking. How do you think this game turns out? Because first of all, we don't know a quarterback. If they're going to start Josh Love, hey man, we can have 12 sacks. He's the least mobile out of the 3 of them. If Case Cook is a little bit more mobile.
Love looked good. Did you watch that game? Did you get a chance to watch that? Love looked really good.
A little bit. Yeah.
Cookus had that great year in Philadelphia, and Memphis to me, I'm biased. It's going to sound really petty, but I would have started Troy. I'd have started him all year. I'd take Troy over Cookus. I'd take Troy over Love. Love did play well the other day. Threw the ball really well. It's a game we should win, and I think we do. I think we're going to win at 20-18. I can't see us scoring much more than 20 because I don't think we've scored much more than 20 in any game this year, with the exception of the one Arlington game. But I think Memphis has a lot of problems on on offense and defensively, we have played well enough to win. I mean, they have kept us in games and we've hung around, but I'm going to say 2018 good guys.
Do you want my what I want or what I hope? Or what I think or what I'm going to hope? What I think?
Yeah, come from the gut and then tell me what you hope.
All right. So what I think is going to happen is that we will start Jalen McClendon, and I think that we will be able to score a little bit more because I think Memphis is a dumpster fire. They've given up the most points in the league. I think we can score against them. I think you might see one of our better offensive games, and then we go back, looking back, and should we have played McClendon earlier on in the season? But it's Memphis, so you really don't know if that's a real assessment or not. Of course, right. Memphis not playing for nothing. I think it's 27-12. I think our defense is pretty good. I think we got to create a turnover. That's one thing. Yeah, and I don't know if it's because Mike Joe is playing nickel and like there tends not to be a lot of interceptions inside, and DeAndre Baker's just looking to rip heads off, not really go after the ball. And Conley, like they're a little bit more physical on the outside. And maybe that's the reason why we're not getting as many interceptions last year. But I think you have a huge game from Malik Fisher and Derek Roberson. I think it's one of those games where I think Malik Fisher cements himself as an all UFL performer. And maybe he could take home the sack round because right now I think he's a half sack behind in the race. And if he's playing against this Memphis offensive line, which has struggled all year, and he gets 3 sacks, he might be able to take it home. So that's what I think is going to happen. What I hope happens, Mike DeLello is our starting quarterback, and we just light it up. And I just want to see something completely different. And I don't think it's ever going to happen because this team seems to stick at the very loyal. Like DeLello's got to earn his stripes a little bit. Before he gets a shot, unlike Michigan, which, Bryce Perkins got brought in. I keep going back to Bryce Perkins, but I think it's really awesome that a playoff team, a team that was succeeding, had an injury at a quarterback, and they still went out there to assess and get the team better. So I just feel like, and it's kind of, to tell you the truth, if you watch Stallions run,
I don't.
At the beginning of the season, and no one cares about the ponies. At the beginning of the season, they were saying Adrian Martinez was the 3rd string quarterback, right behind Jamar and Matt Corral. And I didn't disagree with him because I thought Matt Corral was going to come in, but Zach Potter was able to assess the situation and continue to get better. And then you know how much I love Zach Potter. I can see it on your face. But I think Von's a little slower. I think Von's a little bit more not as, hey, we got to do it right now. It's more like, oh, we have time. And I don't know which method is better. Right now, it's not the best method. But at the end of the day, hopefully he's assessing the situation through 8 games like accurately and not stay loyal. So.
If you go back and look at the film, and again, I'm no GM. I'm not Zach Potter. I'm no genius. But I think after the 4th or 5th game, probably the 4th game, if you go back and look at the tape, I'll be curious to see what moves they make this week. That's going to tell a lot about the end of the season. We made no moves. We stood pat. When you told me about Bryce Perkins in the tweet you sent me when Michigan picked him up, at first I thought we had signed him. And my first reaction was about damn time. They went out and got a quarterback and a good one. This guy can do it. And then when I saw he signed with Michigan, I was like, can't believe it. Why didn't we go get, and again, this isn't putting it all on Jordan, but if you've watched Jalen McClendon play and you've watched Francois play, you don't have a number 2 quarterback. Look at what St. Louis did today. I can't stand them. Or yesterday. I don't like anything about St. Louis. I used to like Beck, but now he's on my nerves. They took a number 2 and went out there and won with 2 top receivers missing. They came up with a game plan around a guy who was mobile, a Bryce Perkins type of quarterback, right? And Manny Watkins, right? Is that his last name? Watkins. I already forgot what it was.
Wilkins.
Close, same thing. And look how effective they were. We didn't have anything like that out of our number 2 quarterbacks all year long. So Vaughn's never been on the show. Would love to have him on the show. I'd love to ask him. Even Coach Barlow, I'd love to have him on the show and ask him. And again, it's not being critical. They're good football guys. But what did they see that we didn't? Or when you go out and watch how this team performed, what were they thinking during the year that said, we need to sit tight? Because I don't get it. And I think, when you look at a guy like Zach Potter and what he's put together in Birmingham, and then you kind of look at what happened between year 1 and year 2 in DC, maybe we were touting the praise a little too heavy early in the year about our GM and the effort that he's put forth. So,
yeah, it's also a challenge to get guys to commit mid-season and not have the opportunity to go to the NFL camps. Like this GM job, and I think we've spoke about him before, is probably tougher than the NFL job because you're not the top of the line. And no one dreams growing up to be a DC defender, right? Like they just didn't. It's really just an opportunity to get tape. But while you're competing, mini camps about to start or started, right? Like, who's going to come in the middle of the season to risk that not getting that shot in the NFL? It's a tough sell. But Zach Potter has been very successful at this. And Zach Potter has been able to assess the situation, and I can't think of the Michigan GM right now. Mike Nolan, I'm going to give him the credit, but they were able to assess the situation and be like, "Hey, you can get good tape here instead of being in a mini camp to maybe get another shot back." In Bryce Perkins was in the NFL last year.
Yeah,
like you got to be able to sell it, and I don't know if Vaughn's selling it as well. Like it.
Yeah. I mean, there were no moves this year. No moves during the season at all. Like none. So Quandre White later
was a pickup from someone you already cut.
Right.
Tommy Champion was the guy that you cut in the preseason. You brought him back and then kicked him around for a while.
The head scratcher for me was Ward. My gosh. It seemed like every time I saw Tim Ward play for San Antonio, he was making plays, and we kept him. And quite frankly, I thought they'd keep Ward and Harris. But they kept Harris and got rid of Ward. And I think Ward, I'd like to look at those two statistically, because Harris, I didn't see much out of him this year. It felt.
Yeah, I think we talked about before the show, like the first time I've heard his name in a couple of weeks, and he got the penalty on the face mask. Yeah. Now, there was that one play that was, 3rd and 17, and he came in and he came back out. They talked to Greg Williams. I forgot what they called it exactly, and he chased down the receiver and was able to stop him. And that was the first play all year that I can think of. Oh, okay, he did something positive, and that's no disrespect to Trent Harris, but he's been silent, and he has not been the outside linebacker defensive end, and neither is Davin Bellamy. And DB will tell you straight to his face that he hasn't had a great season. They know that. What's that? No, he did not. He was a healthy inactive.
So he didn't dress against, because I don't remember. Like I said, I didn't remember seeing him play against St. Louis, but I mean, he's had very few impactful plays this year too.
Yeah, but. All right, Alex. We'll do it again next week.
We'll do it again next week. I'm excited.
You're excited? You're excited to beat the Showboats?
Excited to beat the Showboats. It'll be good to get a win. Get back on the winning track.
So we're recording this on Monday night. It'll come out Tuesday, but I'm on record saying put Mike DiLello in, and 6 touchdowns will come. All right, that's it.
Yeah, I'm with it. I'm with you on this one. And, before we sign off, I do want to give like a little public service announcement, to the folks that are loyal listeners. And I want to give you a tip, because we tried this on Hammer Time last year and it really worked. For you younger guys, I got some experience here. For you younger guys that may be trying to impress, significant other, trying to put the moves on a lady here, trying to show her how worldly you are. When this thing comes out Tuesday morning, watch it, all right, and then save it. And then maybe tomorrow night, when you call your significant other over, put this up on the widescreen webinar, and just let her take it in. Just say, I listen to these guys every week. I message these guys, they message me back, and just let her watch and just be cool and see how the rest of your evening goes. All right. So take it from me. I'm trying to help you guys out a little bit. All right.
There you go. All right, Alex.
Well, but here's the other thing too. I want to tell you guys, I think we go 1-0 this week. Let's go 1-0 this week. And until our next visit, so long, everybody.
Shields up, Webb and Alex out.